When researching AI pilots, it seems that the majority don't succeed. So what does it take to be among the few that do? Unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer that I can pull out of my head. But learning from experienced practitioners is a strong starting point. And joining expert-led sessions offered by the Global User Groups organization is a great way to begin. Welcome everyone to today's live expert session. We're thrilled to have you join us. I have the pleasure of having Gaurish Desai, Principal Enterprise Architect at SAP, joining me. As a result-driven technology leader, Gaurish is passionate about leveraging innovation to solve complex business challenges and deliver business value. He brings cross-industry experience and has led key initiatives such as SAP S/4HANA migrations, M&A integrations, and digital transformation programs. Known for translating strategy into effective IT solutions, he works closely with global stakeholders to drive impactful outcomes. We also have the pleasure of having my colleague Malin Ho supporting us in the chat. And now, without further ado, over to you, Gaurish.
Thank you, Tanya. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who is joining. And this is the sixth session in the series. We have had 5 sessions covering the next era of enterprise data with SAP Business Data Cloud. So I'm pleased to kind of welcome you for today's session and hope you kind of learn throughout this presentation. And if you at the end have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat, and then we will take them probably at the end of the session. Right. So Tanya, you will read out the questions later and we'll go to the Q&A as well. Right. So without further ado, let me share my screen and then we can start. Tanya, if you let me know when you see the screen, then
I can see the screen.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just give me 1 second. Perfect. So today we are going to talk about Architect's Blueprint for SAP Business Data Cloud, the foundation for enterprise AI. And we are going to cover multiple topics today. We'll start with data architecture. We'll take a look at what data products are, how they fit into the new kind of data ecosystem strategy that SAP is sharing. And then finally, we'll also look at some of the AI features which are part of SAP BDC, right? So it's a complete journey. I hope you kind of enjoy it and also find it useful. Again, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and then we'll answer them at the end, right? So as you know, the data landscape across enterprises, they are getting more and more complicated. We are seeing that a lot of data is being generated across the enterprises, but sometimes we face very familiar problems such as poor data quality, data silos, and scalability limitations. We have had a lot of change in the way we store, use, and work with data, right from databases, data warehouses, data lakes, and now data lake houses, right? So, we know that our customers are not only operating SAP applications, they have a lot of non-SAP third-party applications as well, which also generate data, and they struggle to bring all of this in one place, have different siloed systems and solutions in place. So very familiar problem if you are operating in enterprise landscape today. But why is this becoming a kind of a big topic right now? When you talk about data architecture, right, we see data architecture as the fundamental building block for enterprise AI. So when you have the right data architecture for your enterprise, you are able to create more trusted data sets for your AI in future, right? Whether you're already piloting, whether you are kind of, trying to play around with your enterprise AI approach, or you already have use cases, having the right data architecture allows you to bring agility and innovation for your business, reduce the complexity over a period, and then make sure that you are future ready when you are building such a building an AI journey. That is quite critical overall. But how do you see kind of this? How do we see this evolution happening, right? So everybody is largely familiar with data warehouse story. We have been working in SAP BW environment for a very long time, largely focused on structured data, right, taking from your source systems, ETLing into data warehouse as a structured trusted repository, and then building BI use cases or analytics use cases on top of this. This was how it started immediately after database generation, and then it kind of moved on to both structured data and unstructured data, because the volume of the data across the world has been growing at a tremendous exponential pace. Just from 2010 to 2025, it has gone from 2 zettabytes to 180 zettabytes. So that's like 300x growth over this period. And what has happened is the variety of the data that we are collecting today, whether it's images, text, logs, video files, audio recordings, uh, social media data, metadata, all of this is being generated across enterprises, right? So simple thing, like we are recording this meeting today, it is generating an hour-long video that is stored somewhere in some database, and then likely to be used or processed to create transcripts and follow on blog posts and so on and so forth, right? So we are generating structured as well as unstructured data all the time right now in the world, and the velocity of this data growth across enterprises is going super fast, right? This is the challenge. So then people moved more towards the data lake concept, where they said, okay, we have the structured data in the ERP side of things, but at the same time we have semi-structured CSV, JSON, and unstructured data like video, audio files, call center recordings, um, video recordings for safety. All of this needs to be processed somewhere, and let's bring both the worlds together, structured, unstructured, in one place in a data lake, right? And then we'll process the structured data in a data warehouse and process the unstructured data uh, in a different way for AI, machine learning, or mostly machine learning use cases, right? This is how it was evolving into the data lake concept. Then what happened is, over a period, the data lake structure got out of hand, and the analytical data and unstructured data was not going well together because business was not able to curate it properly, right? And data scientists found it very difficult to find and work with these data sets when they are not curated and not available in form of a good repository of data products, right? There was no governance that was available on these kind of data lakes at that point of time. So people started moving to data lake house kind of approach. What is data lake house? It's a combination of a data lake and a warehouse into one architecture, right? So that's how the name data lake house comes into picture. So there you started seeing the use and rise of delta lake, iceberg, hoodie kind of formats, and then making sure that not only you have all of this data coming in from structured and unstructured and semi-structured sources, but also being able to process this data into a clean data set using a fabric kind of approach on top of that. So when you have the lake house, you have the schema enforcement, you have the ACID support, and on top of the data that you have collected, you can run catalogs, access control, lineage, and data quality checks to make sure you take the raw data, curate it into more cleaned up silver data, and make it business ready with gold kind of approach. This is what we know as the medallion architecture, taking the raw data and turning it into trusted curated sources, right? And then you start using them for your data warehouse, in your data warehouse, or directly into AI BI use cases or machine learning use cases. So this provided a single place for both unstructured, structured, and schema enforcement and cataloging features all in one place. But then there were two other patterns from an organizational point of view that were also forming. So one pattern where there was one source, or one access control, one governance, one centralized approach of managing metadata and connectivity for the entire data set, right? This is what we call the data fabric approach, where you have the governance such as access control, data protection, compliance checks, integration, data quality checks, building the rules and policies of how you manage this data, all in a centralized way. Right. So this is where your data team or your IT team manages the entire governance and making sure that the business gets the right data and it's available in a clean, trusted format. This is how the evolution of data fabric started. This is the term that Gartner coined, and they started kind of pushing that in the industry, the concept in the industry, and encouraging the use of data fabric pattern in architecture. But at the same time, the challenges uh, were that the central teams were becoming bottlenecks and slowing the delivery down. So rather than business owning the data and kind of taking a lead on making sure the data is trusted, clean, and aligned across their domain, they started relying more on the central data teams or central IT teams to kind of make sure the data is not fragmented, and cleaned and available to them. But this was not scaling as fast as possible. So people came up with the newer pattern, which is called the data mesh. So moving from a centralized data management or data operations layer to a decentralized data operations way of working, which means the business then takes the responsibility, or the domain takes business domain takes the responsibility of their own data. So if you have finance, if you have commercials, if you have supply chain, marketing, they start taking the ownership of their own data, and then they manage their own infrastructure in some cases, or rely on central IT infrastructure, but they manage the data quality as it's trusted, cleaned up way of operating this data. So this allowed clear domain ownership, having cleaner kind of data product structures, self-service for their own domain as well as other domains, and more of a federated approach from solutions point of view. So this was quite successful. But then people said, hey, can we mash both data mesh and data lakehouse together? That means we get the best of bringing the unstructured, structured data together and having the domain um, ownership. So this is where we see the direction of the industry going. So where the business takes the ownership of their own domain, whether it's sales, finance, commercials, etc., and they are responsible then to create the right kind of trust within their data for different data sources that they operate. So they are responsible for making sure it's clean, making sure it's trusted, and available to other people as well. They are cataloged, self-served. So this is how the data lakehouse and data mesh concepts came together in one place, right? But now the way we are seeing with Business Data Cloud, SAP is also promoting the idea of use of data products. I know some of the customers who have been working on the mesh capabilities or fabric capabilities. They are quite familiar with the concept of data products. But basically, how we are positioning SAP Business Data Cloud data products is trusted data sources which are curated, discoverable, and accessible to the business or the IT users, right? So we have the concept of data products within Business Data Cloud. So SAP then provides managed data products to the customers. So based on three things largely. So when you talk about a data product, it is consisting of three key things. First is the data itself, right? So you have the data coming in from the source systems like ERP private, cloud ERP private, cloud ERP public, or any of the line of business solutions such as Concur, SuccessFactors, Ariba, and so on, right? So these source systems are responsible to provide the data within the data product. And then on top of that data, we have the metadata, which is supporting how the structure of the data is with help of open resource discovery. And then on top of that, you have an API connectivity endpoint. Right. So if you talk about data products in the context of SAP Business Data Cloud, you're talking about three things: the data itself, the metadata, and then the API endpoint to which you can connect and start using that data product. And we'll see how that looks like in a second. So if you think of all the source systems that you might be having, right? So S/4HANA PCE, success factors, ISPN like Ariba and Concur, etc. Right? All these source systems in the new BDC world will be providing what we call the primary data products, right? And these primary data products are things like journal entries, sales order, customer master data, employee master data. So all of these are directly coming from source systems. And the key thing to note is there are two types of data products in the BDC environment. You have the SAP managed data products, which are consumed directly by the solution or by the use cases. And you have the customer build data products, right? These are the data products that you can build and run on your own. And then once you have the primary data products, you can either use them as directly, or you can use them to create derived data products or second level derived data products using DataSphere, right? So this is how it looks like in terms of the overall data product structure. You have the primary data products, you have the derived data products, and then you have the second level derived data products, which you can directly serve in a specific use case. Right? Why is this important? Because this completely changes the way we operate and extract the data from the SAP system, right? So if you look at traditional ETL, you used to have the ETL process, manage the pipelines, make sure that ETL is working. So all of that kind of moving around the data part is no longer required when you are working with data products. So when all the data will be managed within SAP BDC in the object store, HANA object store layer. And once the data is available in object store, you can start consuming this directly. So SAP then provides this as a managed service where you can subscribe to the data products and start using that data directly. So if you have data sources from different SAP and line of business solutions or ERP private cloud, ERP public cloud, you can use those data products within DataSphere, and then you can bring the customer managed data products as well and directly serve them for your AI or BI use cases, right? So it completely streamlines the process of extracting the data and making sure the data is available within a trusted source, a trusted catalog, and you can then use it to run your business focused use cases, right? Such as if you want to run AI/ML models to identify churn or optimize your forecasting or optimize your total expenditure, get insights on your employee learning, for example. All of those can be done in a faster way rather than relying on data extraction at different points of time, right? So we are also going to in this year further in the quarter two, we're also going to launch the data product studio, which will allow you to build your own data products, right? So rather than only using the SAP managed data products, the data product studio will it will be part of the BDC cockpit and will allow you to design the data products that you need. Say, for example, if you have a Z table in your private cloud ERP, then you can have a data product corresponding to that or a set of Z tables, right? So this allows you to then start using your own data sets from SAP as well as non-SAP systems and configure data products, build custom data products, and manage these data products within the SAP BDC environment. So this is something which will be coming in 2026. And then most of you might have already heard the concept of intelligent application or insight applications. These are um, packaged applications, packaged dashboards, which are available for you to consume directly. So first one which we launched was the working capital insight application. Then we have the people intelligence, and then we have a number of supply chain or line of business applications that are also going to come. But what we are also working in terms of the future aspect is having the pro code applications as well. That means you can consume the data products to build your own pro code application in cap wrap and build environments using SAP BTP. So once you have the data products, you can either use them in standard intelligent applications, or you can also use them in pro code application. That is the kind of direction that is being uh, um, delivered now. So again, coming back to intelligent applications as they are today, the way they operate is you have the source data system from which you extract the data into the object store using the SAP foundational service. This is where you build the data product, and once the data product is available in SAP BDC, it's made available in DataSphere catalog, from where you can consume it in analytical models, views as on its own, or you can model it further to be used as used in an SAC story, or you can also share it with SAP Databricks, Snowflake. So we'll see those aspects of the sharing of the data product in the further slides as well. Right. So this is where it brings us to BDC Connect. So what is BDC Connect? BDC Connect is the SAP manifestation of what is known as Delta Share Protocol. So Delta Share Protocol is an industry standard protocol which allows you to share your data with different consumers without having to move that data around, right? So BDC Connect is a manifestation within SAP BDC of the Delta Share Protocol. So we'll see how that works as well. And because of this BDC Connect, what we are planning now in 2026 is making the BDC Connect available for Databricks, Snowflake, Google BigQuery, and Microsoft Fabric. So all the 4 partnerships that have been announced in 2025, they will get BDC Connect, so that you can share this data with these solutions without having to ETL that data again, right? So traditional way of working is you would get the data out from your SAP S/4HANA private cloud into a BW and take an ETL from BW into Snowflake or Databricks. So you don't need to build those pipelines over and over again and run them. You can use BDC Data Connect directly to create an API endpoint and share this data directly with Snowflake or Databricks. And we'll see a quick demo of that as well, right? What it allows us to do is, instead of having a closed environment, open the kind of and some of the most valuable data sets within the enterprise, right, to non-SAP solutions as well, with the use of Delta Share Protocol. And then once you run some forecasting or some AI ML models in the Delta Sharing Protocol, you can actually bring it back into your SAP environment, right? We'll also see how that would work. So say, for example, if you're running a time series forecasting in Databricks, you can send the data from your BDC environment to Databricks, run your time series forecasting, and then bring the final results back into SAP data into SAP environment and publish that into your intelligence app, right? So that is how it would work with SAP BDC Connect. So that allows you to work seamlessly with all the hyperscalers. So with BDC Connect, you'll have support for Snowflake, Databricks, Google BigQuery, and Microsoft Fabric, right? So not only SAP Databricks, which is part of the integrated offering within BDC, but also the ones which are not directly integrated into BDC environment, right? So getting the data from the source systems, bringing it into BDC environment over here, and then using the BDC Connect to share it with the third-party sources. So that is how we see this working once BDC Connect is available. So let's look at how this would work in terms of Databricks, right? Just with an example. So if you see over here, we have a data product called as Cashflow, which is in a S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition. And what you see now is the BDC environment, right? So this is where the data product will be available in form of a catalog. And then when you go into this Cashflow data product, you will be having all information about how this data product is, how it's curated, um, all the life cycle information, and then you can easily click the share button, and using the delta sharing API protocol, you can identify, hey, I want to share this with the demo workspace, right? In Databricks, select it, update it, and then what will happen is automatically this will be shared with the Databricks environment, and it will be available in the Databricks catalog, right? Once it is available, as you can see in the Databricks catalog, over here, you will see this immediately as a data set within Databricks. So you can then see the overview, you can see the sample data without having to share the actual data file or to move that data around between the solution, around between two storages, right? Now, once you have this, let's say you want to run time series forecasting or liquidity calculations using ML flow in Databricks, you can do that within the Databricks environment, right? So making sure that you have your notebooks and you're running the right forecasting models within SAP Databricks. Once that is available, right? What you do then is you are also able to share this final result back into SAP BDC environment. So once you have the cash flow prediction over here, what you do is you activate the delta sharing, and then with delta sharing, you can share this data back into your SAP environment. So you go to delta share, create a share name, create a description as a data product, save over here, and you select what tables you want to share, save and continue, and then you can create the recipients and share that back into Business Data Cloud. So you can already see the power of how this would work if you have a use case which needs both SAP data directly for an analytical use case, and then you can run ML on Databricks and bring it SAP Databricks and bring it back into that analytical use case, right? So immediately publish the data product over here, and then that data product is available within SAP BDC as a new data product, right? So that is how BDC Connect would work. It's a bi-directional share, and you can then install that data product and make it available for your environment, right? If you have any questions on this, please feel free to drop it in the chat as well, so we can answer it at the end of the session. Now we come to the third part of the session, which is about AI in SAP Business Data Cloud. This is where we talk about the AI capabilities of Business Data Cloud, especially with regards to Joule, and what we are seeing in the industry is also the um, agentic side of Joule as well, right? So within Joule, within Business Data Cloud, Joule will be able to do four key things. First one is what we call informational. So this is where you ask questions about your data to Joule. So for example, can you explain how you created a calculation dimension, or how can I connect um, my data sphere tenant to a source system, right? So in this case, it's giving you information based on either your data sets or SAP trained data sets. This is the informational side. Then we have the navigational side. So if you're someone who is new to the product, right, or new to using a particular aspect of SAC or data sphere, you can get guidance on the navigational side. So if you want to open something or you want to navigate to a certain side, and we'll see how that works, Joule can help you with that. And then you have the transactional part, which is, hey, you create a script to kind of calculate certain values for me? Can you create a new space in DataSphere and call it finance? So these are the transactional aspects of Joule in BDC. And then finally, the analytical one, which is, I think, what most of us would use when we are working with the data is, say, for example, if you want to create a chart, if you want to identify top 3 products, top 10 products, slice and dice your data. This is where the analytical side of Joule in Business Data Cloud comes in, right? So if I then show you a quick video, I'll show you a quick video of how this would work. You also have Joule as your main super worker orchestrating agents from different areas that come together. So for some of the agents that are already in plan, and we'll see one of the demos in a second, you have the story creation agent, which will allow you to create an SAC story with simple uh, guided steps and clear instructions, right? We'll see that. You have also the coding agent if you want to run additional coding when you are creating an SAC story, you can use that. You have the analytical insight agent to query your data, and then you have the planning agent to identify and kind of do some of the planning and forecasting activities in SAC for you, right? So these are powered by the SAP knowledge graph within the DataSphere environment, and they will work together in the Joule kind of interface. Joule will then orchestrate all these agents based on the request that is shared by the user, right? So how does that? So what have been delivered so far in 2025? We have delivered kind of 4 key agents that I would like to share as well today. So first one is AI-assisted chart summary. So if you have a chart in your SAC story and you want to create a PowerPoint with it, you can immediately use this agent to create a PowerPoint slide describing how this chart is describing the data from the chart that you want to kind of put in your PowerPoint. So in this case, it looks at the chart, it understands the data, and it says, okay, these are your top 5 products, these are your top 5 geographies, or this is where there is some business issue in one of the finance areas or commercial areas, right? So it looks at the charts, interprets it, and then provides you a summary of that. You also have the AI assisted advanced formula generation, which is creating specific scripts. So if you want to have specific scripts created, you can use the chat functionality, give a text input, and then the script will be generated, right? This is quite popular within the text to SQL kind of approach as well, which is also something that's going to come in future. Then you have the AI assisted comment. So if you are working with a story and if you add in a comment based on a specific data, you can select the data and generate a quick comment based on how you want to change that. And then finally, AI assisted calculations. These are automated explanations of SAC calculations. So if you are working with someone else's calculation views or someone else's SAC story and you don't know what the calculation is doing, instead of you trying to figure out what the calculation is doing, you can just select the calculation and you can generate an explanation. The AI assisted calculation agent then looks at the code and understands what it is trying to do. Right. These are something which is all. These are the agents which are already developed in 2025. But if you look at one of the key one, which is going to be delivered in 2026, instead of you having to build the entire SAC story on your own, what this agent allows you to do is to kind of create a part or almost full SAC story on your using the agent console, right? So instead of having you to kind of create every graph, it gives you a starting point, and then you can start adjusting. So you can imagine if you're creating a story and it used to take you like a week or 2 week, this will dramatically reduce the time that you would need to make these changes, right? And at the same time, you can kind of play around and prompt the agent to have different views, different graphs, and it will immediately adjust it accordingly. So we'll see a quick demo of that, right? So let's say if you're working with the travel analytics intelligent app based on your Concur data, and you have a complete overview of your travel data. This is how the intelligent app would look like. But if you wanted to do that on your own, right, this would take quite a long time for you to start creating your own dashboard, right? So instead of having, I'll just forward it to the right spot. Just give me a second. Yeah. So instead of you having to create a travel analytics story or a version of travel analytics story on your own, what you can do is you can use the analytic app agent, right? And this is how it would work. So you can define your goal. So in this case, generate a 2-page dashboard with the travel KPI as one page and the cost breakdown as page two, right? So this is the prompt that you start with. You can actually optimize the prompt as well quickly. If you want to provide a more detailed prompt, it can prompt optimizer can generate that prompt for you. But let's say if you have a simple prompt like this, right? Just a second. Yeah, you have a simple prompt like this, then you go to next step, and what it does is it starts looking at all the backend data. It tries to understand where the data is going to come from, how would the page look like, and how would the first page and the second page look like, right? So over here, if you see, it has broken down your instruction into what could be the KPIs for the page one and what could be the KPIs for the page two, right? And here it provides you an outline. This is how I see, or the agent sees the story to look like, and then you can play around with it. It gives you some templates. Okay, how what sorry, what color theme you need, and then if you select the right color, once you select the right color theme that you want to use, it starts generating the story. So now it is loading the AI agent for story creation. It is building the model, the right data model that you want to bring all the data sets together, right? And now it is creating the widgets that you need. So it's adding all the KPIs, how the page would look like. And once you do all of that, you have the layout of the page generated, how the layout would fit, what widgets would be added, and then it starts going into the second page, which is the travel cost breakdown. So it first did the travel KPIs, and then second, it is doing the travel cost breakdown, uh, page two of the story, and then it's completed now the layout for page two as well. So it identifies automatically, and then story has been generated, right? Now if you look at this, right, this is the first page of your story. Here you can easily see, once it is saved, you can easily see all the KPIs that have been generated and created for this story. Right? So without you having to even give any KPIs, so it can easily show, okay, what is your travel satisfaction score? What is the supplier utilization, first time approval, cancellation rate, averages across your travel details. So you did not have to provide any of the KPIs. It identified that, for example, out of policy booking rate is one of the key KPIs that should be considered, and it generated a story based, or a widget based on that, right? So you can imagine, instead of you going back and forth with the business and asking them, what are the KPIs that you want to see? What are the charts that you want to see? How do you want to see them? Instead of doing all of that, it actually looked at the back end data sets, and it generated not only the overall KPIs, but then the cost KPIs as well. So cost KPIs in terms of the breakdown across different countries, and then it generates the appendix as well. So in appendix, you can see the complete instructions or complete information about how these two stories were generated. It describes the KPI and so on and so forth. Right. So you can imagine, instead of having to build this story from zero, it gives you a very good starting point to play around, and it shortens the time to market for a quite a lot. Right. So this is one of the agents, or one of the agent features that is planned, but also there are a lot of additional AI features that are planned as well, with regards to AI assisted code generation, SQL, text to SQL generation, data actions, searching the catalog, insight builders, and so on. So those will be those will be available in the SAP Roadmap Explorer. You can check out what are the features that are planned for each of the quarters, and Roadmap Explorer is one of the best areas where you can check this updated information all the time. Right now, in terms of what you could do next, if you want to understand more or start planning your BDC journey, one of the first things that we suggest is you do a modernization assessment, BW modernization assessment. So in this assessment, SAP will help work with you to understand your current BW landscape, current SAC, current DataSphere landscape, help you kind of plan with a workshop how this could look like for you, work with you to validate, and then kind of give you a complete report of how you could migrate to SAP BDC. If you want to understand more kind of from an architectural point of view still, you can actually go to the Architecture Center. If you just Google SAP Architecture Center, you will get a complete list of all the hyperscaler architectures, HANA cloud architectures in BDC. All of those will be available in the Architecture Center for you to kind of download or kind of play around or read through. Right. So this is one of the starting points if you want to get into more details. We also have a new learning journey that was launched in December last year, which is called Becoming an SAP Data Architect, which provides you a foundational understanding of how we see data architecture patterns evolving, some of the things that we talked about at the start of the session, and give you an overall foundational understanding of data architecture. Right. And if you want to learn more about Business Data Cloud, you can actually check the Business Data Cloud learning journey, Business Data Cloud certification, and the SharePoint, which is available for, product help page, which is available for all everyone to understand the details. Right. So with that, I will pause, and maybe Tanya, we take a few questions which are also shared by the audience.
Absolutely happy to do so. We do have quite a few questions, so let me start with the first one. That one is, okay. How can data mesh be justified given the high pressure of, costs, and it is no longer possible to hire staff? And at the same time, you don't want to overload the people with more responsibilities. Do you have an advice here?
Yes, actually, it's funny that you share, right? So, it's a very good question, because data mesh, actually we see this becoming more and more used in the business, because actually more costly to have a centralized IT team doing all the data cleanup and orchestration across the business, right? So IT teams are more and more kind of passing the responsibility. They are providing the governance layer and providing the infrastructure needed, but then they are passing this responsibility back to the business to say, hey, you are operating your business on daily basis. If you are a sales domain, or if you're running the sales organization, it's your responsibility to keep the master data clean, right? Rather than, if you have a central IT team or central data team, you have to ask the business anyways to clean the data, to update the data, and give it back to you, right? This also has a cost element to it. So we see both data fabric kind of architecture and data mesh kind of architecture, wherein if the company is invested more already in the centralized data team, they tend to to go deeper into the data fabric. And if they have not invested in a centralized data team, they actually have smaller data teams working within each of the domains, and that actually can be more agile as well, because then business is taking more responsibility of the data sets, and they are working closely with the IT team for the governance and for the platform layer.
Great, thank you so much. How can customers and partners make an intelligent application, and how is it
Yeah.
better compared to a SAC story?
Yes. So intelligent application, like there are two types of intelligent application that we see coming, right? So intelligent application is one which is sorry, there is a pre-packaged intelligent application which is provided by SAP, right? And you can actually build your own intelligent applications. They are underlying SAC stories, but with Joule on top of that SAC story. Right, that is how I would define an intelligent application. You have the story plus on top of it there is Joule, where you can query the information within the story. So you can either use pre-packaged intelligent application, or you can build your own application by intelligent application extensibility, which will be available to you in 2026.
Thank you so much. And actually, Marlene also posted a link to further information about intelligent applications. The next question is, can SAP Databricks only access data products in the object store, FOS data sphere, of SAP BDC?
It can, but it can also connect into non custom data products as well. So you can connect both SAP managed data products or custom your own customer data managed products as well.
Great, thank you. Next question is, when you create a custom data product with a data product studio, does the data end up in the foundation service object store like the SAP data products?
Yes, that is correct. So when we have it from the data product studio, it will end up in the foundational. It will end up in the object store of DataSphere. It's not the foundational service object store. There is a data sphere object store. That is where it will end up.
Great, thank you. Then, very important question. Is Joule part of core CU, or is it offered as an upsell?
I don't know. I think that is something which I cannot answer. I think it depends on the exact case by case for the commercial aspect of it, Tanya. So it's something that I cannot answer directly. Yeah.
Okay, then I would like to invite the person to join our webinar on April 16th. We have an entire session scheduled for pricing. I'm sure
That
you
is
will have your
perfect. Yes.
answer.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think that is better, because then it varies from different customer situations, right? Based on what they have today, based on the kind of contracts that they have. So it's not like one answer would be fit for everybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is very often. So perfectly, join us on April 16th. Great, thank you. And the next one, can you define in the background that the story generator follows certain principles according to IBC as norm, ISO 26896, or that only certain charts are allowed or not? For example, no pie charts.
Yeah, so I don't know about the ISO standard that you mentioned, right? I will have to read up on that. But if you want to understand more of how the backend side of the agents or Joule or any AI that we build today, the best place is to look at the SAP Trust Center. So SAP Trust Center has a full section on AI and how SAP is kind of doing the backend of the AI in terms of the responsibility, in terms of the standards, in terms of the security, compliance, all of those is covered in the trust center. So rather than me providing you an answer which is a less informed answer, I would request you to go in the trust center and then have a more validated answer.
Thank you very much. Now, currently the last open question is, will the story generator only work on intelligent applications?
No, story generator will be provided as a feature within the BDC environment, right? So you can use that to generate your own intelligent applications as well. So not only the ones which are provided by SAP.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is currently the last question. So I would like to offer all attendees today and everyone watching this video afterwards, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments area underneath this video, and we will be happy to provide answers. And
Thank
with
you.
this, Gaurish, thank you so much for your excellent presentation. And to everyone else, I hope you got a lot of value from this session, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And with this, have a great day, have a great evening, depending on where you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.